America, Tom Kerr here. This is kind of an intro into the longer video that precedes this, where I'm just talking about stuff, nothing, kind of figuring this out here. Put a little picture-in-picture thing down here in the bottom corner that's going to play different news video clips that you won't be able to hear the audio on it, but you'll see, like the invasion that's happening on the southern border, or me getting loaded with frack sand in New Mexico on my truck. Just experimenting with some of the functions that Adobe Premiere has. Try to figure this thing out so I can get my production quality going in the right direction, because the content certainly is wanting, that's for sure. But anyway, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you'll check out my website. I got it written across the top of the screen. I'm working on this. I'm going to get better equipment. I'm going to get another. I got one camera, but it's a cheapo, and it isn't what I thought it was, and I wanted to be able to give you a couple of different perspectives where I could switch between cameras and things, but not there yet. So anyway, that's what this is. I hope you enjoy what's coming, and I hope that we can do a whole bunch of them. And the purpose of this is for me to pass some time, hopefully entertain a few people, and ultimately try to figure out a way that I can monetize this and transition out of the truck and in front of the microphone. Because I hate driving trucks, man. The thrill of the road was gone in about 15 minutes after I left on my first trip 7 years ago. That's all right, though. America's great. God loves us. I hope you enjoy. And unfortunately, if you haven't been, you'll be getting the trapdoor slide to the eternal lake of fire. I'm not sure how solid the ground is under me, but I would say for the vast majority of Americans that it's pretty iffy. I've been watching this guy, Voddie Baucham. He's a black man preacher that has a very straightforward and understandable explanation of the Bible. He preaches in a way that I really don't know how to describe it. It's been very effective for me. It's helped giving me a lot of insights and a lot of understanding that I wouldn't have been able to acquire anywhere else that I've found yet. You might check him out. He's Voddie Baucham. I think he's he's associated with the Grace Family Church out of Houston, Texas. He's the Dean of Theology at the African University in Zambia, Zaire, I believe. Or no. Zambia is the name of the country, and it's some city over there. Maybe the capital city, which I'm unfamiliar with. But anyway, they've started this classical liberal arts college over there, and he's the dean of theology, I believe. Very interesting man, written several books. You should check him out if you have an interest in saving your soul, because he'll help you figure that one out. Certainly has helped me a great deal. The issues that's going on with Trump and Israel. I don't know that there's any Bible prophecy that describes the things that are going on with Trump. I know there's certainly Bible prophecy that discusses the issues that are occurring in Israel right now. I think it's obscene that our students are. I'm sure that the Palestinians have not been treated well. I mean, you hang out with a bunch of turds, no matter how good a fellow you may be. If you surround yourself with assholes, the world's going to perceive you as an asshole, just by virtue of the company you keep. And because the Palestinians have apparently raised their hand and asked the Hamas to be their leadership. You know, they're kind of getting grouped in with those folks, even the good folks. You know, like Trump said in Charlottesville, there's good people on both sides. And he was right. There were good people on both sides. I agree with him. Not the neo-Nazis. Not the BLMers. You know, the middle of the road folks are good. And that's pretty much the case anywhere, I believe. I don't know. Shit, I'm a high school dropout that got a GED because his grandmother hounded him to do it because she felt like it was a good thing, needed to do it. So I wanted to please her, and I got a GED. And then I got a real estate license, and I got some other stuff. And I'm done a few things, not been successful. Actually, only thing I've really been successful at is being the consummate drug addict. I've spent several decades slave to drugs, and on November 30th of last year, I had a life-changing event that caused me to become sober until now. I went to rehab and I got into the program, and thank God there obviously was some divine intervention in that because I overdosed on fentanyl, and that very morning the bed was made available to me and I was able to get in, and it's changed my life, and I'm clean, been clean since November 30th. That was the last used date. I don't anticipate that changing in the foreseeable future. I do, however, make use of another drug. Some people would say it's a substitute for the other drugs that I was taking, but it is what it is, and it helps me, and it's helped me continue my sobriety, and that is Suboxone. It is a lifesaver, and for anybody out there that's really honest with themselves, once you get over the shits and feeling like shit, it's a choice. And the choice is made a hell of a lot easier with Suboxone. I don't know where I'd be today without it. So now that I've identified myself as a drug addict and discounted everything I have to say going forward, I'm kind of lost for words. Kind of outdone myself here. You know, I'm 60 years old, and I think that I really would hope that I would be able to be sitting on a porch somewhere and kind of sliding into a retirement plan at this point and living out my life, hanging out with my kids. Well, that all went to shit when I decided to be a drug addict and focus myself into other things. You know, how much time you got left? How much time does anybody have? You know, if you live to be 75, I think you're alive for 27,500 and some change days. Flash in the pan, a statistical irrelevancy in the grand scheme of things. You know, if I live to be 70 years old, no, 75 years old, no, 70. That's roughly 3,650 days from now. 3,650 days of my life left. And who knows what those, when does it start making that steep decline in quality of life? 5 years out? 6 years out? I don't know. Think about a lost waste of time, you know, several failed relationships, very unfulfilling relationship with one of my sons, and not quite as unfulfilling relationship with my other son. I love them both dearly, but, you know, just, and they're right. They have every right to be disappointed in their father because of the choices that I made. But I can't change that. And I'm not going to apologize incessantly about that. I mean, I've done it. I can't change it. It is what it is. Not going to do it anymore. Sorry. I am. Really am. I got these friends that are, when you get into that lifestyle, you've kind of push yourself away from folks that not push yourself away from folks that are not. I mean, you don't really tend to hang out with folks that aren't using drugs, and your circle of friends gets pretty specialized in that regard. I've been blessed in my life with a good family, or let me rephrase that, what I perceived as a good family, they ultimately turned out to be not so great. I mean, my mom and dad were great. One set of my grandparents was really good. My brother was great. We don't get along anymore for whatever reason, but it's his choice. Boo-hoo. What am I doing here? This is ridiculous. There's so much other stuff going on besides listening to me whine about my poor choices in life. Let's talk about Joe Biden's poor choices. He's got a whole plethora of poor choices that are affecting each one of us right now. I mean, what is the motivation behind that? I mean, how come somebody who has America and effective control of it as the president of the United States, or, some kind of control as a senator, at least a very active participant in the direction of the country, how do you let that get away from you and change your allegiance away from what America is supposed to be? I didn't realize that there was a difference, or I didn't realize what the difference was between a classical liberal and a conservative. I think I'm more inclined to go with a classical liberal than a conservative. My understanding's correct. A classical liberal's more into the individual and pursuing their self-interest and that kind of stuff. Kind of like the Ayn Rand, man's highest moral purpose is his own self-interest. That sounds pretty cold and hard, but if you look at it from the perspective of, if a man doesn't tend to his own knitting first, then he can't tend to anybody else's or assist in anybody's knitting project in any meaningful way. If his ball of yarn is rolling down the road and getting untwound, there you go, there's a metaphor. Anyway, well, I've been talking here for 13 minutes. 13 minutes and 12 seconds, 13 seconds, 14 seconds. Amazing. And I don't know that I've said anything. And I don't feel good about what I've said. Might have shared too much with you initially here on the past drug use. It's really kind of hard not to share it or have some be a part of what I'm talking about here, because it has been such a tremendous part of my life. I remember two events in my life with drugs. The first and basically the second. The first, exposure, visual exposure, and then the first, use. And that would be, I don't remember the dates or anything like that, but I was in Chattanooga, Tennessee with my parents. They had a friend down there that was a banker dude, a big highfalutin banker guy. He was a friend of the family's, and we went down there to visit on Signal or Lookout Mountain, I can't remember. Anyway, me and his son got on bicycles and rode down to the Signal Mountain or Lookout Mountain Country Club, where we met up with a bunch of his friends. I think I was like 10 years old, and we took our bikes and rode down into the woods at the club, and they broke out some marijuana. Flipped me out. I didn't know what to think about all this. It's the craziest thing I ever heard of. And I didn't participate. I just was very uncomfortable. I didn't do it. I just waited for it to get over with so we could go back to the house. Moved forward about 3 years. And I'm with my brother in Atlanta on 285 on the north end of town, crossing over the Chattahoochee River, when either Steve Blakesley or Buddy Moore reached around back into the back seat and handed me a joint, and I hit the joint for the first time in my life. And then from that point forward, I pretty much have been using drugs in one way or another ever since. Yep. I can remember it as if I'm riding across there right now. It was black Dodge 1970 Challenger. It was full of shit in the back seat and cramped. We'd just come down from Tennessee. I don't know what we were doing down there. Yeah. Anyway. Don't throw the drug addicts away, folks. I mean, really, there's a human being in there. They've just lost their way. They're not garbage. They're not irredeemable. They're certainly not participating in society right now. And we as a country need everybody, all hands on deck, to get with the program and try to reverse some of this stuff that's going on in the world. That's these external forces that are assaulting our concept, our core mission, the freedom of an individual, and the righteousness of our country. You know, you may be an atheist, you may be what are they called? Not an Islamist. What the fuck is that? Whatever you may be. First, you need to be an American. In that context, you need to put Jesus Christ first in your life. That's your main dude right there. But in the day-to-day operations on a global scale, when you're not talking about your relationship with God or trying to bring folks to God, then America's your go-to fallback position. That's the one you need to be promoting and supporting. We lost that somewhere. Like it or not, America was founded on Judeo-Christian beliefs. It just was. Unless you subscribe to the idea that the founders were a bunch of Freemasons and they were evildoers and all kinds of shit. They owned slaves, so they can't be considered as human beings. You know, there's a whole discussion about, you know, for instance, the Declaration of Independence had two drafts. The first draft was one that took up slavery when we were separating from England. But before they had Thomas Jefferson write it, they made a decision that they had to be unanimous in everything that they voted on, because they were concerned that if they had any fissures in their voting or what their mission was, that the king could weasel his way in there and divide them, and it would fail. So no matter what they were doing, they always had to have a unanimous consent by all the 13 colonies. So when Thomas Jefferson came back with this first draft of the Constitution, talking about what a horse's ass the king was for bringing these people over from Africa and selling them on the public square, and how the citizenry of America, you know, wanted to do away with this practice, didn't want to be a part of it, but they were forced upon them by the crown. South Carolina and Georgia voted against it because they were, heavily into the agricultural deal. They were big slave states. And it wouldn't have happened. I mean, we wouldn't have been able to. They couldn't have gotten that done. I can't remember who the representatives for those states were, but it just wasn't going to happen. It was the times. So they sent old Thomas back to the drawing board, and he came back with what we got now, which isn't the end of the world, but it doesn't address slavery. But for the folks that suggest that because Thomas Jefferson owned slaves, that he has no right to have the word all men are created equal come out of his mouth is ridiculous, because he attempted to try to address that in the beginning. But what he did do when we started this program here in America was he laid the foundation for the elimination of slavery. Made it possible, set the groundwork, put us on that trajectory. And then we had to fight a war to do it. A big damn war where we lost almost 1 million people. That's a sacrifice of the American people, our ancestors, to give freedom and liberty and rights and privileges to the black community. I think that's pretty damn good of us, because they've been enslaved a hell of a lot longer before they came to America than they were after they got here. You understand what I'm saying? Slavery existed long before 1492 when Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Long time before. But it didn't last that much longer after we got over here because we ended the shit. So if anything, we ought to be congratulated and held up as an example for some amazing shit that we've done here. That being one of the more impressive efforts that we've undertaken. The abolishment of slavery. Let that sink in for a minute. You know, you hear all these educated kids, these lesbian underwater basket weaving PhDs that are just so educated that they are incapable of functioning in a society. They live in a cocoon, or they're like Bubble Boy. Remember the John Travolta movie Bubble Boy, where where he lives in a bubble and they've got all these tubes and stuff. He runs around so he can get around his yard and stuff. It's like they live in a bubble and they only talk to themselves. And when they hear something unusual or different from the outside world that comes in, they flip out. Oh my God! Oh my God! It's crazy talk. You're hurting me. I'm frightened. I trying to figure out what the fuck I'm going to do with myself. You know, as I mentioned earlier, I'm 60 years old. Tick tock, tick tock. Clock's running out on me. You know what? You know, what's the big? I drive a truck now. I'm really utilizing the older brain here. Holding the steering wheel, driving down the road. Yeah, see in America. That's great. Hallelujah. It sucks. It fucking sucks. I can't stand it, actually. It's the most lonely job that I've ever had in my life. Yep. The loneliest job I've ever had in my life. It's a rolling isolation chamber. Oh, here's a good thing. I need to say this. If you've come this far, you probably will stick with me. For future reference, here's a little piece of information for everybody that might be of value to you. If you've ever used the service Priceline before, which I think generally is a pretty good organization, does a fine job. Keep in mind, though, if you rent a Hilton property, like a Hampton Inn in particular today, and I've stayed at, and I told this woman down at the counter today or yesterday, I've stayed in Hilton properties from coast to coast, literally from the Oregon coast to Virginia Beach, and in between, all over, and without fail, I'll rent the room with Priceline, and it pulls the money out of my account and prepays the bill. So all I got to do, theoretically, is show up and run my card for the bullshit, non-existent incidentals, which there's no opportunity, there's no service, no product that's offered that could be an incidental expense in these places anymore. You know, nobody's got room service. Anyway. Hang on. Light a cigarette. Cover your eyes. Trigger alert! Trigger alert! So, but every time with Hilton, instead of just charging me the $50 hold on my account, they charge me for the room again. And, you know, like in this instance here, My room charges for 3 nights or 4 nights. I can't remember. I'm leaving. Check it out Sunday morning. Were $390. They charged me an additional $390. So I've got $740 in 4 nights here. And then after I mentioned this shit to them to try to drop that hold on the money, which they haven't done yet, they put another $50 on my fucking card because they needed to do they needed to have the incidental expenses. So now they've got $790 of my money tied up. You know, and this happens every fucking time I stay here. I'll never stay at another Hilton property, and I don't encourage anybody to do it either. I know it's got to be a policy. It happens every time. So unless they just have a bunch of imbeciles, because they certainly look like jackasses when you talk to them about this. Like, hey, well, gee whiz, I'm sorry. We can't help it. This stupid here, I guess. I don't know. I mean, literally, they can't. They fuck it up every time. You know, the money will probably drop off here in a couple of days. Well, I'm here to, relax, take my time off for 4 days. And they taking my fucking money away from me, so I can't do everything I intended to do. It's fucking bullshit. And then there's no recourse. I call customer service, and I get some dumbass out in the Philippines that can't even speak the fucking language. I explain the whole situation to her, and then she says, hold on one moment. And then they transfer me to somebody else in another Bangladesh, I guess. Hell, I don't know where the fuck they're at. And I say, do you know anything about why I'm calling? Oh, no, please, let me help you. I'll be glad to help you. Oh, fuck off. What the fuck's the point? That's just a merry-go-round. That fucking foreign call center shit is bullshit. Somebody ought to write a law that says that all call centers and customer service support lines ought to be domestic and all of them, where they have a English speaker available with a clear, understandable voice to address their problems instead of some fucking asshole that can't even speak the damn language. Speaking of can't even speak the damn language, here's another thing for you. Has anybody but me noticed that there's a lot of ambient mariachi music playing in your life lately, and a lot of peripheral Spanish conversation going on around you? Maybe it's just where I go as a truck driver that I get. Excuse me, I need another cigarette. That I get exposed to this segment of the population that seems to be not so fluent in English. We're being invaded, by the way. If you haven't noticed, or if you're living in a fucking cave somewhere, or you are still one of these fools that say our diversity is our strength. Yeah, our diversity is going to destroy us. It literally is going to destroy us. If the numbers are even remotely correct, let's say there's 5 million people that's crossed the border in the last 3 years. 5 million people. How many of them do you think are good guys or bad guys? How many of them do you think don't give a shit whatsoever about assimilating into American society? What is American society anymore? We've allowed it to be so dismantled and bastardized over the last 20 some odd years that it is nothing like it was when I was born, 1963, and growing up in the 70s and 80s. It wasn't perfect, but it was a damn sight better than 90% of the people on the planet's situation. I mean, all these people bitching and moaning about how fucking evil we are and how the white guy's just the worst thing that ever happened to the human race. Fuck you. Fuck you. How about them apples, mister? Fuck you. I think that we've made a pretty substantial and meaningful contribution to the rise of humanity on this planet. I know we have. And America itself, with our strength as our diversity and the melting pot and all that stuff, which is real and was meaningful when we managed our immigration and we gave people, it brought people in at a rate that we could absorb them and they could become a part of us, as opposed to flooding the system to where there's no possibility of absorption. You know, here you go. Here's a way to look at this. A rock will hold a certain amount of moisture inside of it. You set it in a pond, and it will. First you stick it in an oven, and you bake that thing for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, and you bake all the moisture out of it, and you weigh it, and it weighs X amount, and then you stick that rock in water and leave it there overnight. It's going to absorb a certain percentage of its weight in water. And then, once it reaches its saturation, it won't take any more on. It's actually a pretty good analogy. And the rest of it is just, I don't know what the rest of it becomes. It just surrounds the original core of what we're trying to bring into. You know, a society can only absorb so many people and maintain itself. Yeah. And what we've done by just throwing the gates open down there in Texas is exceeded our absorption rate by far. And what's the solution to that? Obviously, any reasonable person, just the most basic, simple idea you can think of. Here's another way to look at this. If you're at the house and you've got the front door open and you have a screen door on that front door and you got it open too, the wind's blowing in and the flies are coming into the house, how do you stop the flies from getting in your house? You close the screen door or the door itself. Kind of like a wall, isn't it? The wall is our screen door that prevents these flies from getting in the house. You want to get a full appreciation of what's going on down at the border, then leave your fucking screen door open all summer long and see how many flies you get in your fucking house. I bet you $10 that I don't have this bet that you get a couple of more than you want. Just a guess. No, it's pretty cool, actually. Sitting here talking to myself, essentially, but I'm assuming and hoping that somebody will actually look at this thing. And I guess I probably ought to go through it and get some clips and shorts and put out there on there. I need to start thinking about what the heck I'm going to say so that I can make some of these gotcha clips to where that I can try to get some people to watch. It's hard to do these. It'd be hard to do these in the truck because it's so fucking cramped in there. And I got way too much shit in there. I need to get rid of some of it. But apparently I'm a hoarder and can't throw anything away. But that's going to change today. I did buy me a satellite dish so I can watch some satellite TV. That'll be good. Yeah, but this will be kind of cool to do these out on the road. And this is Tom the Trucker coming to you live. Well, maybe a live stream would be kind of cool too. I wonder if I could do a live stream on X with video. I know that you'd like to see my smiling, toothless face. Yeah. Could be cool. We'll see. See if we can get 3 or 4 people to sign up and watch. What would be really cool, and it'd be really cool for anybody out there. In fact, if I could get, here's the plan, is that we get some number of guys and girls out there to do these kind of shows, okay? You just shoot shit, talk to yourself, whatever. And I might jazz this up a little bit with some, video. Maybe I better move over here so I have a space over here. I can put me a video screen. I can, talk about. I don't have anything that I can think of, and I don't necessarily have to comment about each one of them. I could put videos in a picture-in-picture thing here that'd be self-explanatory. And I could maybe do a chyron across the bottom of the screen that, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Fuck yeah, that's what I'm going to do. No, but what would be cool would be if we could get, 10,000 people out there. Or 100,000 people. 100,000 people that could stomach this shit and would be willing to pay $1 to do it. And we had, say, 100 folks that were actually producing content. And we spread that out over everybody. We shared that somehow to where that everybody doing the content could make some money. I'd much rather do this. I'd much rather sit here and talk about nothing for an hour or 3 hours. Who the fuck knows? Or whatever I feel like doing. And maybe ultimately get somebody in here to talk with me about something that doesn't know anything either. And, get a buck a piece out of folks. If I could get 1,000, let's see. If I get, 10,000 people paying $1 a month or $12 a year, it'd be $120,000 a year to replace my income in driving that fucking truck. Save me! Sign up for my subscription and pay me $12 a year so I don't have to drive a truck anymore and I can sit here and talk to you. Yeah, we can get into all kinds of shit. You can start sending me emails, tell me what a bald-headed buffoon I am, and we can have some interaction like that. Figure out how to put a chat window up here, maybe do a live stream. Who knows? The possibilities are limitless if the world doesn't come to end before I can figure it out. Which I'm afraid it's going to, and I'm afraid that most people aren't going to have a fucking $1 a month to spend on some stupid shit that doesn't have anything to do with sustaining your life, which this obviously doesn't. Unless I can come up with some really prophetic or useful information to help you figure out how to save your life. I guess that'll be to be determined in the future, whether that happens or not.
When you bundle your home or renters with your auto, Progressive provides 24/7 protection for almost everything you own.
Yep.
You really need this phone is not
That'd be really fun. It'd be great. It'd be wonderful. I think you'd feel a lot better about yourself if you were sending me $1 a month. I know I'd feel a lot better about you if you were sending me $1 a month. Oh, man. We're in trouble. We're in big trouble. Big trouble. Anybody heard anything about the CB, let's see, Central Bank Digital Currency? That sounds like fun. That chick with the IMF, or no, I can't remember, Legrand or whatever her fucking name is, the European Central Bank. They're coming at you, folks over there in Europe. They're rolling it out. They're lying to you, telling you that you're going to get to keep your cash and you can choose between the cash and the digital currency. Here's how that's going to play out. Here's exactly how that's going to play out. Yeah, they're going to let you keep your cash and your digital currency. You're going to get people start using digital currency. And then they're going to start tacking fees on for handling cash. Because they got to take it to the bank. They got to count it. They got to finger fuck it. They got to do all kinds of shit. So they're going to be able to add fees on to using cash in transaction. And that's fine. Let the fucking people do that. Don't take that cash. Don't take that digital currency. It's the mark, I'm thinking. Because it could be the mark. It could very well be the mark, because if you don't behave yourself or you don't do what you're supposed to, they can cut it off. Can't buy or sell unless you, hey, toe the party line. I ain't toeing no fucking party line, my friends. I am not going to do that. I want to go to heaven, okay? I really do. It beats the shit out of the alternative. And any fool that doesn't see that is setting himself up for some disappointing outcomes, I believe. What do you got to lose? You do the right shit, you live your life the right way, and do your best to be a good person, and you go to heaven, or you're wrong and you're just dead, or you don't do the right shit and you go to hell. But if you're wrong and this doesn't, you don't go to heaven, there is no heaven or whatever that is, you've lived a decent life. You're a good person. You've done the right thing. You've dealt with people properly. You're a good person. So, assuming that you want to be a good person and you want to be remembered as a guy who always tried to do the right thing, may have fallen short a time or two, may have fucked it up terribly. That's a good way to conduct yourself. As if you were going to, I believe in Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is coming, by the way, and I am hopeful that I have turned myself around. I've repented from my sins to the point that He'll forgive me, and I believe He will. Belief is key to going to heaven. Repentance is key to going to heaven. And the belief deal is the belief that God's going to fulfill His promise to us. And I absolutely believe that He is going to fulfill His promise. Now, whether He fulfills that promise to me because I haven't conducted myself in the manner that gets you the golden ticket to the place upstairs, that's yet to be determined. On one hand, I think it's very arrogant to, I hear these people, I'm going to heaven. I absolutely know I'm going to heaven. Well, good for you. I think that's pretty arrogant of somebody to believe like that. I may be wrong. I can't bring myself to have the confidence that I have done everything that I'm supposed to do, because I don't know that I know everything I'm supposed to do. Like I said, that Vodi Bakum dude, he pointed out a lot of stuff that I didn't know about and still don't understand, like justification and sanctification, adoption, all these concepts in religion that I'd never heard of, that if you listen to him talk about, are pretty damn important. But Jesus Himself said that, I believe He said, don't hold me to this 100%. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure He said something along the lines of that the most important commandment that He's given, or God has given, is to love thy neighbor as thyself. To love one another as whatever, something like that. That's a tough one, man. And then He comes along, Jesus does, after I think it was the Mosaic Law, where, you had the Ten Commandments that are pretty cut and dry. But Jesus expanded on those in large part, like tacking on to adultery. That looking at a woman with lustful intent was committing adultery with her. That changes that whole program to where we're all screwed. Because I don't even look at women anymore, just because I know that I'm going to want to fuck them. Not to the point that anybody would act on it, but I think that's a base carnal biological encoding in our DNA, the reproductive stuff, the survival of the species type thing that's encoded into our DNA. Because if you aren't attracted to anybody, you're not going to procreate and expand the species. So that lust in your heart and all that kind of stuff, that's a tough one, my friends. That's a tough one. I think I'm going to wrap this up here. And I might add to it later, I don't know. It'd be kind of cool to have 3 hours. Throw some commercials in the middle. Say, hey, this is the Tom Kerr Show. Why don't you join us and get all this interesting and content? Maybe do it. It'd be kind of cool to do this once a day. Start reading a little bit more. I listen to all kinds of stuff on the radio, podcasts. I tell you, a really cool and interesting guy is a guy named Eric Weinstein. Smart dude, man. That guy never or pauses uncomfortably in his speech. He's the most fluid speaker I think I've ever seen. I've always said that a person that can speak fluidly without a bunch of pauses unnecessarily or some either is full of shit, doesn't know what he's talking about, but he really believes it, or he does know what he's talking about and he can communicate it. That's, you have to figure that one out for yourself. I don't say a whole lot of uhs and ahs. I'm working on not making pauses, so you'll have to determine whether I'm full of shit and know what I'm talking about, or don't know what I'm talking about, or I do know what I'm talking about, and I'm sharing some very pertinent and invaluable information with you. I don't know. I don't know half the time what I'm talking about. Sometimes I feel like I'm just sitting here talking in circles. Just saying words to consume time. We're at the 48 minute and 7 second mark. Who is that guy? Anyway, for those of you that have made it this far, I'm a little concerned about you because I don't know that this is what I've had to share with you this evening justifies 48 minutes of your life. But if you did stick around, or even if you watched a portion of it, I'm really appreciated it. I really do appreciate it. I think it's kind of cool. Experience. And I really appreciate it. So, you guys have a good night. Be safe. Try not to hate each other so much. I know it's hard to either side of the equation. The Democrat, being a Democrat, or a socialist, or a communist, or whatever the hell you are, or a Republican, a conservative, classical liberal, or whatever you may be. It's hard to bend on stuff, to be open to hear what the other side say, because there's been so many folks out there on both sides, all angles of the conversation that are just so full of shit, and they just beat the shit out of you if you disagree with them. Here's the good news about me. I don't give a fuck. You can say whatever you want to about me. You might hurt my feelings. It would really suck if I come to find out that the only people out there paying $1 a month to hear me talk were people that hated my guts, but I'd get over it. Look at that. Look like a toothless buffoon. That's from meth, folks. Don't smoke any meth. That missing tooth. Oh, my God. How humiliating is that? Drugs will kill you. Drugs will destroy your life. Don't ever do them. There's no upside. And anybody that would bring a new participant into the field of drug use is not a good person. You really ought to rethink your life. If you're selling drugs, you're not a good person. I don't see how in the world you can be a drug dealer and ever hope to go to heaven. I just don't see how that works. But I'm not the gatekeeper. God is the gatekeeper. Jesus will make that determination when he gets around, comes back around, which I'm afraid is going to be, I'm hopeful will be sooner than later. Yep. Pray for both sides in Israel. And not for Hamas, those imbeciles, those evil baby-killing shitbags, but the people of Palestine. Pray for them. Pray that they get the insight they need to find the strength in themselves to send Hamas packing and get them out of their lives. Give them the strength to get rid of Hamas. And the wisdom to come to the table and try to figure this out in an equitable way that everybody can live together, for Christ's sake. Who in the hell wants to spend the entirety of their life over there fighting with somebody? And up there in Ukraine, say some prayers for those people. Russians and Ukrainians alike. I mean, there's got to be a solution to their issue. And it needs to happen sooner than later. Just pray for each other. Everybody needs to pray for each other and the world itself. That we can all find common ground. That's what we need. Pray for common ground, common understanding with each other, to where that we can come together and work on solutions that ends up with everyone enjoying maximum freedom and maximum security. That didn't sound right. You know, if everybody conducts themselves correctly, there doesn't need to be all this massive security state. I mean, there doesn't need to be it anyway, but there's no justification for it. They can't use that as a reason for it. You know, it's up to us to get along. It's up to us to stop these people that are doing the wrong things out there, that are acting like assholes and making shit worse for everybody else. It's a very small minority of assholes out there that are causing the problems in the world. Yeah, there's some small group of assholes that are elitist. Don't call them elite, because they're no better than anybody else. They just fucked around and got in a position to where that they got the levers of power in their hands. I don't understand how that happened, but it has. Just got to overcome it. We can't let these people divide us. And we can't let the folks on the lower end of the spectrum that are causing all the insecurity on the ground to, because whether they realize it or not, they're in coordination with the folks up there pulling the strings. The ones down there causing the bullshit on the street, unbeknownst to either party, I guess, just by happenstance, are justifying each other. Or not justifying each other, but they're making it possible for each other to function in a way that we all are paying for. And that's my opinion. What the fuck do I know? Not very much. So this is Tom Kerr coming to you from Alcoa, Tennessee at the Hampton Inns, where I've paid double the freight to be here. So don't stay at Hilton Hotels. That's my public service announcement today. Hilton Properties will rip your ass off. I'll ultimately get my money back, but they will double charge you every opportunity that they can. Y'all have a great night. I'm going to work on some of this stuff, and I hope that maybe you'll send me an email. I'll put some email information in the comments section or whatever, however I post this on X, wherever it ends up at. And I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great night. God bless America. God bless you, and love all of you.